All right, looks like we got some more guests joining us. So let me see. Jen, I'm going to reshare that form so that way those that are just joining us are able to fill that out. And if you already filled it out, don't worry about it. You're all set. Okay.
So we're not quite sure how many people are going to be attending today. So what we'll do is as people roll in, we'll let them in, but we'll probably get started pretty promptly just to be respectful of your time.
Excuse me, can you tell me exactly, I'm looking at the meeting chat and I'm looking at the two links. What is supposed to be filled out?
So they're both the same. So if you click on either one, it'll open up the form to fill out. So we shared it again because with Zoom, if folks join after the chat has started, they won't see any previous messages before they joined the meeting. So that's why we shared it again.
And this is the form that says HTTPS forms office COM. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So if you click on that link, it will bring you to a form that you can fill out.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I came a little late. I didn't hear about the form.
Oh, no worries. Looks like we had some other folks join us as well. So what we'll do is we'll share the form again at 4:30 when we're supposed to be starting. So then that way we're not, people that have been here for a bit, they're not seeing 6 different, versions of the same form. So
I have to say, it's very confusing.
The form or just
the whole process. It was so easy going on before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the college we have to move on to something that's more secure. I mean, it's FTC guidelines that we have to follow. So that is why that's one of the big reasons why we switched. And we're just starting out. So we're doing the best we can and we're getting those kinks worked out. So we do appreciate the patience right now.
Yeah, the downside with student teaching when we implemented over the summer was we didn't have student teachers in the system. So, we weren't able to troubleshoot a lot of the issues until now. So thank you for helping us with troubleshooting a lot of this stuff. I know it hasn't been easy. And we are learning from this experience and we're going to be making some changes going forward. But in the meantime, we're going to be here to support you and try to get everything worked out. So we can get that all set so it's better in the future. So that's kind of the goal of today's meeting, is just to get everybody together and walk you through the process on how to fill out or how to access Watermark, how to fill out the forms, and any of those other questions that you might have. And we do have a couple more minutes, so well, one more minute, I guess. I just looked at the clock and it changed, of course. So all right. Well, we are at 4:30. So thank you for everybody that's joining us for today's Zoom meeting. Can you tell I'm used to doing webinars and whatnot, trying to be more formal with the introduction. We have been sharing a form for our mentors and supervisors in the chat. I'm just sharing it one more time. If you already filled it out, don't worry about it. This is for the new folks that are just joining us, and looks like we have some more that are joining, so I'll have to share it again. My apologies. So this is essentially giving us a baseline for when we come back into the office tomorrow. If there's anything that is missing on our end or things that need to be corrected in the system, just this quick form will help us kind of get some of those issues all sorted out. Looks like we had someone else join, so sorry, I'm spamming everybody with the chat. Okay, so for today, I'm just going to kind of walk through the process on how to access Watermark, how to fill out some of the different forms that you might see, and then we can kind of do a Q&A after. If you already know how to do this process, I apologize, you're probably going to see it one more time. It's just to create a baseline for everybody that is on the call today. So, and actually I'm going to turn off my camera, so then that way I'm not accidentally covering something on the screen if there's a button or anything. Because I know with the recording, sometimes the camera covers things. So I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to share.
Oh, sorry. Just to let everybody know, we are recording so that if you do speak to anybody who is not in attendance today, we will be sharing that recording with Hope.
All right. So can everybody see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. All right, fantastic. I saw a couple of thumbs up. Okay. So when you are assigned a student teacher, you should receive an email from Watermark. And it'll look like this, where it says your account credentials for Watermark Student Learning and Licensure is listed as the title. If you don't see an email from Watermark, you might need to reach out to your IT to make sure that the email address on here is whitelisted. Because otherwise the spam filters that your school might be blocking the notifications from Watermark. So that's also something we like to recommend folks just reach out to their IT and make sure that they're able to receive these notifications. So with this email, there's going to be this really long URL that you'll have to click on to open Watermark. And when you do that, it's going to bring you to the in progress page. Now on the in progress page, it's going to list all of the courses, not all of the courses, but the courses that your student teacher is enrolled in. So this is where you'll access your evaluations and observations for your student teacher. So to view that evaluation or that observation, you'll go into that course section. You can either click on the course title, view details, or it might show a list of activities on the bottom here that you can click on. So I'm just going to go into view details. Okay, so there are a list of different evaluations, and you'll know that they are pending an assessment. If they have this teal bar or they say awaiting assessment and there is the number of assessments that need to be completed. And you'll know that it's done if there is a number next to done or it's a purple bar across the screen. So let me just go into this one here. So view details. So when you click on the evaluation, it will pull up the student's name on the left-hand side. And if you have multiple student teachers that you're assessing that are in that same course section, they'll be listed here. In most cases, I think folks will only have one student in a specific course section that they're evaluating. So then you would click on the student's name. And I'm going to click undo so I can go back and show that again. Okay. So this is the form. So you'll fill out the information, the student's name, selecting the program. So a lot of this is really self-explanatory with the education level, the candidate ID number, that's the student's ID number. You might have to ask the student for that information. So just scroll down here. So you'll enter your full name, the school district, the college supervisor, the school's name, and the evaluation itself. So there's these questions. So there's the date, and then you have to select what the placement type is. So if it's general education, special education, and then the grade level or grade range is this drop down option here. So to fill out the rubric for the student teacher, right on the right-hand side, there's the assessment panel. If you've completed this evaluation a lot of times, you might not need to look at the rubric, but if you want to see the full rubric so you can see what is being assessed for that student, you'll select View Rubric Details. And this will pull it up on a new screen where you can select the different options. And if there's a comment that you want to add about the specific element that you are assessing the student on, you can add that comment below that element in this rubric, which that's really handy if there's something specific that you want to comment on for this instance. So once you've entered all of your scores for that student, you're going to select Close in the upper right corner. I know it's scary, but don't worry, it's going to save. So if you click Close, you'll see that those changes are reflected on the assessment panel in the assessment rubric. And you'll see that there are a couple more questions that you need to fill out. So if you have any concerns about the placement and overall comments and suggestions, you'd enter that here as well. And then once you're done with the evaluation, then you'll click Submit. But if you want to save the evaluation to come back to it, you would just hit Save, but then you would have to submit it so the supervisor and or instructor can see the results. So I'm going to click Submit. And once again, you'll know that it's done if it has this purple bar. And also on the Done column, it's going to tell you when it was submitted, at what time, and by who submitted it. Whoops. And I accidentally opened it again. So that's the week 2 evaluation. And you can either click the arrow or select Done in the upper right corner to go back to that activity screen. Are there any questions about the week 2 evaluation before I move on to week 4?
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
If you go back and open it at the bottom, it says there were no activity comments, but if you put comments in, it still says no activity comments.
So the activity comments, this field here,
Yes.
so that's if you highlight a section of the text here. So actually, let me go back. I'll undo the submission so you can see where that comes into play. So the activity comments, that's highlighting a specific section of the activity itself. So if we wanted to specify the program or the education level, or even something like this. So if you're highlighting text within this form, a speech bubble is going to appear that you can add comments to. Say there was like a second mentor or let me just put this here. So if you add a comment that way, then it will appear on the activity comments in the assessment panel.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, that is confusing. That took me some practice too. Okay, so that's where that would come into play. So that's a great question. So I'm going to save that. Any other questions about week 2? All right.
Alita,
Sure.
I
Yes.
have a question. I know you covered this earlier, but I didn't really get all of it. If you did not receive an email
Mhm.
on how to sign into Watermark, who do I have to see? Jen, I have to see you?
Oh, so Mike, if you're a supervisor, you probably didn't get a notification email. That was something that we learned after everything was launched, is that
Oh, okay.
supervisors didn't automatically get that notification email.
Okay,
That said, I did put the link in the chat, which is I'll share it again. But this link right here, if you are a supervisor and you haven't been able to log in yet, you go to this link, put in your external email, not your St. Rose email address,
okay,
and click forgot password. Then you'll get a notification from no reply at watermarkinsights.com.
okay,
And they'll walk you through how
That
to set up your password. Okay.
okay,
Jen, could you
okay.
put that on again?
Pardon?
Could you put that on again?
It's right here I put it right in the chat.
Oh, okay,
It's the last message.
okay.
Thanks, Jen.
I was talking to myself. Okay. So on the screen here, you can see that URL at the top here. It's that first part up here as well. So sll.watermarkinsights.com. All right. So if there aren't any other questions for week 2, I'm going to move on to week 4. So one bit of feedback that we got from the evaluations is that they're all out of order. So that's something that we're going to work on for the next placement. There was a huge rush to try to get these out to folks as soon as possible because the placements had already started. So we do apologize for the confusion in terms of when they need to be submitted in the list here. But once those activities are set for a specific date, you can sort them by a specific due date, descending, ascending, and when there's submissions to assess, so on and so forth. So that's something I also wanted to mention for once that's in place. But moving on to week 4, I'm going to do my best. My voice is cracking on me. So on that activities page, you would click on the week 4 evaluation week 4 evaluation. And no, actually, okay, yes. So then once again, you click on the student's name. And this looks really familiar. So you'll put in the candidate's name, the program. So all that information is the same. There are a couple of differences in the form with the questions that are presented later on. So let me just go back up to the top here. We did have some folks that received the week 4 evaluation instead of the week 2 evaluation. I'm sorry. So the week 4 was in place of the week 2 evaluation. If you're one of those people, just put the date in here. I know that's not the date, but it's the first one that came to mind. And then just put week 2 in the form. So if for some reason you got week 4 for the week 2 evaluation, just make that adjustment, and Hope is already aware of that. So when she's pulling reports, that should be fine. So fill out all the information on the form here. And then once again, to fill out the rubric on the right-hand side in the assessment panel, you want to select the view rubric details. And this is where you would enter satisfactory, unsatisfactory, so on and so forth. So I'm just gonna just scroll down.
You can also enter your comments here as well.
Yes. So like teacher candidate. Demonstrates. I knew I spelled that wrong. Okay, demonstrates. Okay, and then going. Okay, and then once again, we'll click close and it will save the rubric, don't worry. And then once you're ready to submit, you'll click submit. And if you're missing anything in the form, so say you forgot to fill out a text field or you forgot to select one of the drop-down options, it won't allow you to submit it until those are completed. So it will highlight everything that's missing in red, or it has that little triangle with the exclamation point to let you know this is missing. You need to put this in before you can submit it. So that's that one. Okay. So next up, we have the student teaching observation. Now, we do have this set up, so it requires the mentor and the supervisor to put in an observation. We will be adjusting that where we have a mentor version and a supervisor version, but for the purposes of this placement, we have it so the mentor and the supervisor will fill it out and they can both see it after the other one has completed the observation. So this is what this form looks like. Once again, candidate name. In this, you'll be typing in the program rather than selecting the drop-down option. Candidate ID number, that's the student's ID number, and education level. So you'll be entering that instead of doing the drop-down like it is in week 2 and week 4. Placement information, so district, grade level, so on and so forth. So specifying general ed versus special ed. And this is the observation information. So the date of the observation, what the lesson objective and context was. So you enter all that information. In the assessment panel, you'll notice that there are multiple rubrics that need to be completed. So this one, the top one is knowledge. So you would click on view rubric details, and then you could enter the scores for each of those elements of the rubric. Once again, you can add the comments like I was demonstrating in week 2 and week 4. So once this one is good to go, so I'm going to enter some scores in here.
Have the students seen these rubrics?
They will see them after the evaluation is complete.
Okay.
Great question. So then after you enter the score, you're going to select close again. And you'll see this one's filled out. Make sure your mouse is hovering over the assessment panel so you can scroll down on this section. And for this rubric, so for each of the rubrics, you're going to select view rubric details. So then that way you can enter the scores for those different lesson observation and evaluations that you're doing. So this one's a little bit different where it has multiple rubrics, but it's the same flow or process that you have for the other evaluations. Excuse me. So click on this and close. Okay, and then once you enter all the information into the rubrics that you need to complete, at the very bottom, there's also the option for additional feedback if you'd like to provide feedback to the student on how they did for this observation. So there's a maximum of 3,000 words or characters, I'm sorry. And then once you're done, you'll click submit in the upper right corner, and then that observation will be released to the supervisor or the mentor, supervisor, and student after the mentor and supervisor have completed the observation. So that's that one. Okay. And we also have the 3-way meeting notes. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is just completed by the supervisor. So you would go into that activity if you're a supervisor, student's name, and then you would enter the information for that meeting notes. So the account I'm under currently is a mentor account, so that's why I'm not seeing the form to be filled out. So let me see. Let me go into, one moment, please. Oh, wait, I just saw it. There it is. Okay. Nope, not what I wanted. All right, here we go. So this is what it looks like from the supervisor perspective. So if I click on student name. So these are all of the fields that you need to complete for the three-way meeting notes. So date, session, placement, student teacher, cooperating teacher, your name, and then the different fields below. So areas of strength, you know, so on and so forth. And then once you fill this out, you can also provide additional feedback in the assessment panel. You'll notice that there's no rubric for this one, so it's a little bit quicker to fill out. So then once you enter your feedback, if you have any, then you would click submit in the upper right, and then that one is good to go. So I'm going to cancel. Okay, and I think the only one that I'm missing on here is the final student teaching. Yes, the final student teaching evaluation. I will have a demonstration on how to do that after the meeting today. I don't have the activity launched to my demo section here. But we also have some tutorials that walk you through the steps as well. So I will put those in the chat so everybody has access to those. Were there any questions that came up while I was doing my spiel?
So one of the questions that was in the Q&A from Brenda was that are all evaluations labeled differently for the cooperating teacher and supervisor? And I let her know that those are all the same titles. And then Terry let us know supervisors don't complete the evaluations, just the observations.
Right. Yep. So
I have a question because they're all labeled the same. So I know that I'm a cooperating teacher.
Mhm.
So I do 4 observations and the supervisor does 4 observations. So observation 1, we both have an observation 1. So I'm confused.
yes. So that's one of the things I will be adjusting for the next placement. But because trying to remember my logic why I did that. So because each person needs to complete 4 observations, that's why there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you do observation 1, sorry, it's been a long day.
That's okay. So I'm just thinking if I go in and grade it, because I'm going to do mine the day before her supervisor.
Mhm.
So if I go in and put my scores, how does she go in and put her scores for her observation? And they're on 2 different lessons.
So the information that is being entered, it won't overwrite the other one if that's what you're worried about. So it will create 2 separate observations, even though it says number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Did that answer the question?
No, I think so.
Okay.
So when I go in and put my scores and my comments, and the next day when her supervisor goes in and opens observation 1, she'll get a whole new form.
Yes.
Okay, so they will be separate.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yep. And actually, that's something I should pull up with that observation. Let me just reshare my screen really quick. Turn off my camera first. I'm not covering anything. So let me go to share screen. So on the form here, there's an assessments history option where you can see who scored what. So there would actually be another observation here that you could click on. So you would see the mentor's observation, the supervisor's observation. And Hope should be able to pull those kind of reports as well to make the distinction between the two. But so that's where you can see the assessment history, where it has the two different observations, even though it's this quote unquote same form, if that makes sense. Okay.
Can you go over like step 1, 2, and 3 without all of these things we're supposed to click on, exactly what we're supposed to do to get to these forms that you're doing? I'm confused. What do I'm in, I've got my password, and what do I do first, second, third to get in to start my observation 1, which I'm going to do tomorrow?
Okay. So let me just pull up screen here. Oop, hide my video. Okay. So you've logged in, right?
Right.
You're starting from after you log in.
Right.
Okay. So you would go into the course that the student teacher is in. So if you're doing multiple student teachers, there you might have to search a little bit, but you would go into the course section that the student teacher is in, and you could click on either the course title or view details. And this will pull up the list of all of the activities that you need to complete. So all the evaluations or observations that you need to submit.
Okay, now their name should be on here, that we just click on their name, or we put their name in.
So if you go to the observation, there will be the student listed next to that.
Okay.
If you don't see that student, please fill out the form that we put in the chat because we need to know who is missing.
Okay. And you're going to put that back up because mine disappeared from.
Jen, do you got it? Okay, she's nodding. She's on mute. Okay. But yes, so then once you get to this screen for the observation, you would click on the student's name.
Okay.
And it will pull up the form for the observation.
Okay.
So
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I know I went a little fast. Okay. So that's that. Let me just open.
Lita, I have a question.
Sure.
So I was using the link that you guys emailed me and getting into Watermark with no problems. I saw my student teacher's name. I already did the evaluation 1. Not an observation, but the evaluation, the very first one, and submitted it. And now when I go back into Watermark, her name's not even listed there. So I'm back to square one, I think.
Who's the student?
It's Isabella O'Lori.
All right, I'm going to check right now.
Okay.
But also, if you could just fill out that form, that would be helpful.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
say it's missing. Okay.
While Jen looks, I'll do a dance. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So essentially the process is you go into Watermark. On the in progress page, you go to the course that the student is in, and it will list all of the evaluations and observations that you'll need to fill out. And once you click on that evaluation or observation, that student's name will be there. So when you click on the student's name, it will pull up that form. So, there's a few more steps involved, but that is essentially the process throughout. And let's see, I also have some other tutorials that I made after the YouTube video that Jen shared in the chat. So it walks you through the different forms, how to complete them. and how to access Watermark as well. So let me just pull those up really quick. And I will plop those in the chat. And while I'm pulling that up, were there any other questions that came up?
I haven't got my password yet. I emailed you and I didn't get my password to get into Watermark. This is Janice.
Hi, Janice. So yes, if you go to the link that I put in the chat that starts with sll.watermark.info,
All right, I got that down.
that's, you're going to use your email and then click on the forgot password. Then
Okay.
you will get you'll get information from Watermark. It'll be no reply at Watermark Insights,
Okay,
and that will give you directions on how to get in.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, Jen, while I'm plopping these things in the chat here, was there anything that you wanted to mention that's on your
I mean,
any thoughts?
I
Okay.
guess just a little bit of background. There were the issues kind of arose from just inaccuracies in files. So if you know any thing about the back end of things, a database, etc., if there is bad data going in, bad data comes out, and the computer doesn't know the difference. So that is what we've been correcting for the last week. So again, I'm going to reiterate that we do appreciate your patience, and we do, we also appreciate that it's very frustrating. So I just wanted to let you know that we're working on it. I think for the most part, I've gotten placements where they need to be, but that's why we need you to fill out that form. So in case I missed something, that is something I can work on when I get here in the morning. I guess that's really all I wanted to say. Like, I don't have any directions for you. I just want to say thank you for, working with us. This has not been an easy task. It's been a monumental task for a 3-person team. So again, thank you very much for being so patient with us.
Thank you.
All right. That was pretty much all I had for today. It's been a long day, as I'm sure it's been a long day for everybody. But we really do appreciate you signing on just to get a little bit more insight into Watermark and how to complete the evaluations, as well as filling out the form that we shared in the chat. That really does help us when it comes to troubleshooting, and also just, it's nice to see so many friendly faces and put some names to faces as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to stick around, but if you're all set, you're free to go if you would like.
Just make sure to copy those links so that you have those
Yes.
tutorials
Yes.
before we turn things off.
Okay, Jen, may I ask you a question? In the event that a cooperating teacher, whose name I do not see as a participant this afternoon, is having difficulty, I don't feel that I have enough background to really instruct them. What should we tell them to do?
Everybody should be emailing helpdesk@strohs.edu with any questions or problems. Those tickets, they go to our college-wide help desk, but anything that's Watermark related comes to the 3 of us. So if you know of a student that's struggling with something, or a mentor teacher, or a supervisor, if you are the mentor teacher, have them put in a ticket to helpdesk@strohs.edu, and we will get to it as soon as we can. The other day we had like 40, so it did take us a bit to get through them. But I think we're all set. We've shortened that list down to 2. So
the reason I asked that question is because I know that just in professional conversation, I have run into some teachers, active teachers, who have said that this is not an easy program to work with.
So part of that, Margaret, is because we have had so many issues in rolling this out. So, as Lita mentioned at the beginning, we weren't able to test anything to make sure the kinks were rolled out, or the kinks were worked out beforehand, because we didn't have any active student teachers. So that is the reason why this is that's the largest reason why this is very complicated. Once we have everything set up and streamlined, and your feedback has been very important to us as we get this stuff ironed out, Once we have all that into place, then we can do the dates like Lita said, and then when placement 2 rolls around, things are going to look a little bit different, and hopefully it flow in a much easier manner. Like I said, we've corrected all of that data discrepancy in the background, so hopefully placement 2, you're not going to experience as much confusion. So in those professional conversations, we would ask that everybody kind of say they're doing the best they can. It might seem complicated at this point, but they're working on it.
Yeah. And also
we'll try.
and also to give you a little bit of background about while we were also implementing this tool, we were also doing a huge data migration project from, chalk and wire those days, into Watermark. And then we're also working with a new course evaluations and surveys tool as well. So, we were doing a lot at the same time. So we were hoping to have more stuff ironed out ahead of time. But, like Jen said, we, do appreciate your feedback when it comes to what we do have out right now. But we're really here to help support you and the student teachers to make sure that they do have a good experience using Watermark. And we do appreciate everybody's patience. So,
and the specificity of that feedback is very necessary. So instead of just, if they reach out to us saying it's really complicated, we really need to know what it is that's confusing or complicated so that we can make sure that we're addressing that specific issue.
I do have one other question.
Mhm.
I think it's really important for the student teachers to see the rubrics. Like I show my students in school the rubrics before they do an activity so they can meet the expectations. I know that I can print one out for her maybe. Is there any way to share it with her electronically?
So Hope would probably be the best person to get that information from. She does have a Canvas course, which is so all of your student teachers, they actually have to go into Canvas to get to Watermark to check their evals and observations. So there's a course set up in Canvas, and Hope is the teacher of that. It's called Student Teaching. If you ask Hope to put those rubrics in there so students have access to them, that's probably the best way to get that information out to them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. The other option too is we can export a PDF version of the rubric and send it to everybody as well. But we do recommend reaching out to Hope first, just because we can't keep track of everybody in terms of, who we've sent it to and whatnot. But that is an option as well, that we can export it as a PDF so folks can share it with their student teachers. The reason we don't have it on the activities themselves is with that when you're adding the rubric to the activity itself in that preview window where you fill out the form information, that requires the students to fill it out as well. So that's why that's why we don't have it on that side. It's on the assessment panel. So it's a whole complicated thing on the back end. So
I have a
Thank-
question. So
Thank you
if
for
we,
explaining that.
I'm sorry, if we filled out the forms that you guys put in the chat, someone will be getting back to us in the next day or two? Okay.
yes.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
I'm going to take that information first thing in the morning, make sure everything is all good. And
Okay,
let
thank you.
know. Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. And I hope this training was useful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And if there's any issues, helpdesk@stros.edu. That's the go-to. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone and enjoy the rest
Thank
of your
you.
evening.
Have a good night. Thank you.